Brad, the other thing with the Pistons is we continue to watch. I feel like they've played 5 seasons in one. This has been such a wacky season. We've gone back and forth. They should be winning. They need to go all out. They suck. Just go ahead and tank. It's not worth it. I would make the argument 5 distinct seasons have happened so far before we've even reached the final. You had the Josh Smith Pistons, and that was very nauseating, and they were impossible to watch. They went 5-23. Followed by that, they went without Josh Smith. It was a hallelujah moment. They got rid of him. They went 12-4. And you started to get involved. I remember you and I were saying this is fun. We can finally watch our local basketball team play competent basketball.
I've stopped watching.
Well, and because you continue to go through all these changes, then Jennings gets injured. They go 4-6 in this weird, nobody knows where they're going direction. They trade for Reggie Jackson. They go 2-10 after adding Reggie Jackson. And then Greg Monroe goes down with an injury, and they've been 5-1 since. I can't figure them out, Brad. I can't figure out this team. I hate watching this team because I've been back and forth the entire season. There's been no consistency. One guy gets injured. One guy gets traded. Everything gets thrown in flux. How are you supposed to have any consistency at all when you watch this team and you have no idea when it's going to turn for the worst or the better left and right? Should they be tanking? Should they be winning? They're 5-1 right now. They're playing fun basketball. Am I supposed to be happy that they're winning, or am I supposed to want them to lose?
I don't think anybody really cares about the Pistons anymore during this season. I mean, could you agree with that? Like, how many people do you see live tweeting during a Pistons game? I don't think really anybody even cares about the season anymore. I think the one thing that we should care about is this little controversy that we teased earlier on, and it's, look, Reggie Jackson played well for the first couple of games he was here, and then completely fell off, was single-handedly losing games for the Pistons, turning the ball over, taking ridiculous shots from 18 feet with one hand, shot like 35% during a stretch, shooting 20 times a game. Like, that can't happen for a point guard on this team. And then Greg Monroe goes down, and you mentioned the numbers right there. Without Monroe, they're way better. Reggie Jackson's averaged like a triple. He's like Russell Westbrook reincarnated these past 2 weeks. Now, I mean, Greg Monroe, obviously a guy that we've talked about and saying he's probably not going to be back with the Pistons. Also a guy that probably can be back with the Pistons but might not is Reggie Jackson. So who would you rather have?
Well, that's the discussion because Monroe and Reggie Jackson have not been able to coexist. Reggie Jackson's not a good shooter, and Greg Monroe occupies space in the paint with Andre Drummond. When Monroe was injured, it's not a surprise that Reggie Jackson played better. So you get a performance like that where he's able to go to the rim with ease. I'll give you the numbers. Since Monroe got injured, 21 points a game, 12 assists a game, 7 rebounds a game on 47% shooting. He's like a different player. He's able to flourish more with shooters around him. Drummond's the only player in the post. So if you had to make a decision, would you bring back Monroe at the detriment of Reggie Jackson, which I think would be a disaster, or do you just pick one of them? I'm sticking with Reggie Jackson. That's the guy I'm putting my money in right now because I think you've already got a big in Andre Drummond, and you have Reggie Jackson, and then you operate with those two and put shooters and defenders around him and operate in this more modern small ball NBA.
Whatever you just said, I'm agreeing with because the last part I heard was I don't want Greg Monroe and I want Reggie Jackson. I'm all for that. I think Reggie Jackson's a great piece, and he's been way better without Greg Monroe on the floor. I think when you have all those guys on the floor, Greg Monroe, I think, a better talent right now than Reggie Jackson. But, I mean, I think Reggie Jackson, full potential, is a guy that can be a poor man's Russell Westbrook, right? I mean, he can give you those similar numbers, be a controlling point guard. And with Andre Drummond, look, when he wants to play, he can go get you 20 rebounds whenever he wants. So building with those two guys, putting three-point shooters at the 2, 3, and 4 position, which is what SVG wants to do anyway, I think you see a little bit of a core there. And Brandon Jennings, sorry, you're not really included in it. Greg Monroe, sorry, you're not really included in it. But it makes it easy on Pistons, makes it easy on Piston fans as well that say, well, look, we want Greg Monroe in the building. Well, you can't have both of them because the numbers don't dictate that.
Well, and it's admittedly a small chunk since they were playing together. I mean, Jackson only played 12 games.
But that's the
Greg
chunk
Monroe.
that we're going to have to determine in the offseason because that's all we're going to have.
Well, Monroe is going to come back before the season ends. At least that's what the report is.
And when they go 0-8?
Well, you're going to get another look at it because is there a chance they could play together and salvage it? Maybe. But when Monroe's looking like he's going to get out and you're seeing Reggie Jackson play well without Greg Monroe, I think then you have to make that decision that Reggie Jackson is more valuable. You need a really high-level point guard, and then you get those wing players around him. That's got to be their first-round draft pick is getting a guy on the wing. You look back at Stan Van Gundy's Orlando Magic team where they had Turkoglu and Rashard Lewis as their 3 and the 4. Those are guys that are wing players that can step out and shoot the 3. The Pistons, Anthony Tolliver is getting big minutes because he's the only guy that fits that.
Yeah.
And if they can get more of those guys, and I don't want this guy, but a guy in his mold, Andrea Bargnani, a big that can shoot the three. I don't want him.
I don't want him.
No. He's trending down terribly. He's shooting below 30%.
Never trended up.
No, well, some of his first couple seasons fit this type of guy. He's no longer that player. But that's the mold you need. A guy that plays that 4 spot that steps out and shoots. Ryan Anderson is the better version of that.
Could have had Ryan Anderson last year.
You could. What about drafting Frank Kaminsky? Oh, I'm just starting to look at guys. I don't think that's your pick either, but that's the mold you have to get. A big that steps out and shoots, because then it fits next to Andre Drummond, and it doesn't hurt Reggie Jackson or any of your other guards that need to get in the paint. Because we had a situation where they had too many bigs. Josh Smith, Greg Monroe, and Andre Drummond, and it was a disaster for the offense. And it looks like it's still a disaster with 2 guys, because Reggie Jackson is not the shooter that Brandon Jennings was. He's a guy that's not going to be able to pull up and shoot a long 2 or a 3 at a high enough rate. You need him to go crash off of pick and rolls, and you can't do that if Monroe and Drummond are both occupying space.
No doubt. I'm more of a fan of Reggie Jackson.
It's been really interesting because I think he really wanted to be here. His first game, he was throwing up because he was so excited.
He wants to be here.
And you like to see him succeed. In some of these games where he's putting up these ridiculous video game numbers, he's triple-double here and there, yeah, you're rooting for him. And I don't think it's a coincidence that's because Greg Monroe is no longer in the lineup. So that's the question for people. Reggie Jackson's going to be a free agent. Greg Monroe's going to be a free agent. It looks like they're better off when only one of them plays. Who would you keep? Now, that's assuming that you could keep both. Monroe could walk for nothing. Who would you rather have? If they both want to come back, you can only sign the contract for one. 989-774-3691. Use the hashtag ChipChat.
Here's the added intangible to this whole dynamic of wanting to keep one or the other. If you keep both at around $14 million, Andre Drummond's contract is up within the next 2 years, I'm pretty sure. You're going to have to sign him to close to a max deal if you want to keep him around, because he's going to get max money. You're not going to be able to keep all 3, because then you're left without a wing in a dominant wing league. You're not going to be able to win without a wing. So if you sign all 3 of those guys to max money, you're not going to win. That's not a formula for success. So if you want to take Reggie Jackson and Greg Monroe both, say goodbye to Andre Drummond. I'm not willing to do that. So pick one of them.